Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Ministry Matters with Chris Stinnett. I am Chris Stinnett, and today we're going to talk about a parsonage. That may not seem very exciting at first, but let me explain something to you. Sometimes a congregation, when they're looking for a new minister, they will put an ad in a paper or someplace else, and they'll say, here's where we're located, here's how many members we have, here's what our leadership structure looks like. We have elders, deacons, here are our growth prospects for the future. And then often they'll finish up with some statement like, salary commensurate with experience and education, parsonage included. And they believe that that inclusion of a parsonage makes that a much more attractive possibility for a preacher. And it just might. It might be an attractive possibility. But we need to look at two aspects about the parsonage. The two aspects are the economic aspect on one and the convenience aspect on the other. I think the reason the parsonage is mentioned at the end like that in the ad is because it seems to be an economic advantage, and it could be. It may be that a parsonage is absolutely necessary in order to work and serve in that location. In some places in the United States, the housing cost is so exorbitant that it would be simply impossible for a congregation to support a preacher there and pay him enough that he could put a roof over his head. As I am recording this in June of 2026, the top 5 housing cost markets in the United States of America are: number 1, San Jose, California. In San Jose, an average family house sells for $1.9 million. Now, that's not some palatial estate. That's simply a modest family house, $1.9 million. The second most expensive market is Manhattan, New York. Not too surprising. Average rental in Manhattan is $5,600 a month. The top 5 are rounded out with Orange County, California, the greater Los Angeles area, San Francisco, California. Of course, the whole Bay Area is expensive. And the 5th one is Honolulu, Hawaii, which is not too unexpected because of its location. There are many other locations, though, where housing is as exorbitant as you can imagine. Miami-Dade County, there are places in Connecticut, downtown Chicago, for example, and there are many other places like that around the country where the housing cost is simply prohibitive. A church could never pay enough in support for a preacher to be able to afford housing in that location. So it may be absolutely necessary. But if it's not necessary, is it at least desirable? Well, in order to answer that, you need to consider the effect that a parsonage will have on your overall support costs. Here's why. The Internal Revenue Service has repeatedly pointed out that the fair rental value of a parsonage is considered taxable income to the preacher. Now, if you correctly allocate your housing allowance, you will pay no federal income tax or state income tax, if that applies to you, on that fair rental value of the house. You can avoid that by correctly allocating your housing allowance. But nothing will avoid SE tax, the Social Security portion of your federal taxes. Social Security and Medicare accounts for 15.3% of everything that you get, and that cannot be exempted from your taxes. So if you have a parsonage, what happens is your taxes go up, but your standard of living actually is slightly reduced. Let me give you an example of how this would work. If the fair rental value of the parsonage were $1,250 a month, which is certainly not exorbitant or out of line, but if it were $1,250 a month, you, as the preacher, would owe an additional $191.25 per month in additional SE taxes alone. That works out to $2,295 over a year's time, and you're paying tax for a house that's not your house. You need to recall that as you start planning your support requests. Also, while others your age and station in life may be buying a house, providing a base of financial security, you're not. So whatever you do, when you see that a parsonage is included in the support package, don't assume that that's free housing. It actually is not free. That doesn't mean it's a bad deal. It may still be a very attractive option for you. You just need to know the economic impact on your support, and you need to be able to plan for it accordingly. But the economic impact is only one part of it. There's another part of it too, and we want to talk about convenience. When we talk about convenience of a parsonage, the first thing you have to realize is the building itself is going to be built or maintained on or adjacent to the church property. That means you've got a really fast commute to work. It also means that you may only need one family vehicle, and that could positively affect your economics. The reality, though, is that you will not choose where and how you live. You might be in a parsonage that is far larger than you need, or it might be much smaller than you need. Regardless, it is what it is, and you will have to adjust to that. A second thing about convenience is that if you live on the church property or adjacent to the property, you're always at work. You're never off work. You're always available to unlock the building, to take deliveries, to grant access to members, or many, many other things that you would not normally anticipate. Also, the property, the parsonage, may include storage of building maintenance supplies, things like paint and drywall, ladders, ceiling tiles. Those things may be taking up space in your garage or in your basement, and the understanding is just that that's where those things are stored for repairs and maintenance at the church building. Now, if you were renting from a landlord could not do that. He could not store his materials on your property that you're paying rent for. But the church parsonage is in a much different realm. It is part of the church property. You just need to understand that. Also, since it is church property, you may not be allowed to redecorate. You may not be allowed to change the paint or the window treatments or the floor coverings or anything like that. Or you may be allowed to make those changes at your own expense. Or you may be allowed to make those changes, and a certain amount is budgeted each year for things just like that. You just need to know what your status is as you go in. All of this is just about information. There may be some unanticipated inconveniences involved in living in the parsonage. If they were anticipated, we'd talk about them. If they're unanticipated, we can't get in the way first. The last thing I would say is, in the event of a sudden change in your ministry, your housing situation changes just as suddenly. If you resign to take a different work, if you are dismissed from your position, all of that will factor into your housing situation. Now, all of this that I've said about convenience might wind up sounding pretty negative, but it need not be negative. It might not be negative at all. It might be exactly the right thing for you and just exactly what you need. You need to know the effect of a parsonage on your ministry, because of course it's the ministry that matters. God bless you. And as always, friends, like, subscribe, and share, because ministry matters. And God bless you.